essentially some of the problems, some of the challenges in a real sense in collegiate athletics. And of course, you've been in and out of collegiate athletics for quite a while. But what do you find in terms of dealing with some of the NCAA requirements? And we ask that question primarily because each time we have an opportunity to talk to people who've been involved in athletics, coaching, and et cetera, the NCAA requirements often come up. Let's give you an opportunity as a person coming from the professional ranks back into the collegiate ranks to say something about your impressions in reference to the requirements up to this point.
Well, since the time I coached in collegiate football, the restrictions have increased tremendously, and the presidents have stepped in. And I think the recruiting restrictions are probably the toughest, because you only have a certain number of days. For instance, in May 21 to evaluate. That's no contact. Then you come back in the fall, and you have a few days in October, and then you really have December and January when you can have recruits visit. And other than that, it's phone calls and letters. So it's a tremendous challenge just because of the fact that Jim and I were talking about this. What you really want to do is meet as many of the players as you can and their parents. It's very important. I know in recruiting last year, when I came in January, I met every one of the players' parents. And many of them came to the campus when we had campus visits. And I found that to be very enlightening. And I had a much better idea of who I was dealing with, because the videotapes of the games reveal a certain amount about the individual as a player. But as we all know, there's much more to it than that.
There's that unseen potential that you have an opportunity to get to when you talk to the parents and have an opportunity to personally make that contact with the student athlete.
Well, exactly, and I like to involve the parents. I think that having been the parent of two boys that went through the University of Virginia and now graduated, that I can see the same concerns of these parents that I had. So consequently, you like to have that kind of rapport, and you like to have that kind of knowledge of one another before you make such a big decision, because it is a tremendous decision in terms of a financial commitment from us, and really a commitment by any prospect and his parents to, you know, to attend any university.
Coach Foster, you know, I think we've talked about gender equity and other problems dealing with an attempt to try to put more money into female athletics. And of course, you've done quite a job in terms of bringing about the support for the Vanderbilt University women's basketball team. But let's look at gender equity across the board, not only dealing with basketball. And you have to recognize that you do have somewhat of a very, very special kind of situation with your women's basketball team. But many women teams are suffering simply because they don't get the kind of support. What can be done, and what do you see as one of the great challenges in this area?
Well, I think a great many universities are addressing that issue right now, because it's the law, and it's being put in a position that you've got to step up to the table. And at Vanderbilt, our budgets are very much compatible with the men's across the board in terms of basketball, as far as travel, as far as the kinds of uniforms that you're going to buy, as far as the kind of shoes you wear, whatever it is, top to bottom. I think you have the same monies available today that you didn't have 10 years ago. I mean, I came into this thing, my first year at St. Joseph's, I made $3,000, and my second $5,000, and then they made me full-time, and I made $10,000. And I also had to coach softball. Those days are gone. Those days are long past. I make a good living now. My assistants are making a good living now, and I think the players are treated in a first-class, first-rate manner. And you can't hide behind ignorance anymore. You can't pretend that this situation doesn't exist. You've got to address it, and I think most administrators are, but I know Vanderbilt and Paul Houlihan has attacked this issue very aggressively.
Coach, what have you found in terms of, and certainly you don't have any questions with gender equity in the football program, but in terms of the football program, what have you found to be the most challenge since you've arrived at Vanderbilt University? What are some of the things that you feel that if you had, you could probably do a much better job of what you're supposed to do?
Well, I think basically we're pretty close. I don't think in terms of adding on and finalizing certain aspects of the program, there are things that need to be done and need to be addressed. And, it involves money. And basically, that's the kind of university support that you need. The bottom line at a private institution is that the scholarships cost so much. You take a year to go to Vanderbilt is around $28,000, and you take the rest of the conference, and it's about $8,000 a year. So the challenge for us, in order to make the whole program work, is obviously income. Now, in terms of our stadium, hey, we got 42,000 seats out there. We got the biggest stadium in the area that can hold the most people. So, in terms of our football team, we've got to go out and have the kind of product that draws a crowd. The other thing that needs to be addressed is the possibility of endowment. A lot of the major universities, especially the private universities, are endowing their programs, and what that allows you to do, it allows you to use the income from the conference and your major events on the campus to provide what's necessary to carry on a strong athletic program. So really, the challenge for us is far-reaching. I mean, it isn't just football, it's really for the whole program.
As a matter of fact, speaking of endowment, that brings us to this whole question of fundraising. And of course, Coach Foster, we do recognize that quite recently you lost a great supporter of the Vanderbilt University Athletic Department with the death of Mr. Ingram. But now let's look at fundraising and some of the things that are being done in order to help supplement some of the scholarship money, because I think, as you've indicated, Coach, that if it costs $28,000 to go to Vanderbilt, that means that there's a $28,000 scholarship that has to be paid for and supported. What are some of the things that are being done in terms of trying to increase your fundraising in the athletic department?
Well, we have our National Commodore Club, which raises basically the amount of money every year that pays for our scholarships. And they're just finishing their annual drive. Mr. Ken Hudgens, who recently passed away, was in charge of that. And we are now in the process of conducting a national search to replace Ken. And there's another position in that fundraising area where we would get someone to actually go out and to start to get money to do what Coach DowhoWer said, endow scholarships. Marshall Chapman, a local entertainer in the Nashville area, songwriter, singer. Marshall came to our games over the last 4 years. 2 years ago, decided that she would endow a scholarship. We need people like Marshall Chapman to step up. We need people to want to involve themselves in the university in that way. Angela Gorsica was the player that she sort of attached herself to, and she wanted that scholarship to be named in relationship to Angela, and endowed the center position for us. And as long as we can keep getting 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" centers, I'm glad Marshall
and that money will continue to come.
Yeah, well, that scholarship is taken care of perpetually. I mean, it's going to be there forever, and we've got to get more of them. We have to get more people that take that kind of interest in the university. Just recently, we had another death at the school, Jerry Smith. There were monies raised and then matched by the chancellor to create an endowed scholarship for the men's basketball program in the name of Jerry Smith. These kinds of things need to be done on a more consistent basis, and when we get people in place, as we're searching now, when that happens, I think we'll be in great shape.
Now, this idea of an endowed scholarship is athletic scholarship is sort of a new idea, is it not?
It is, and to endow a $28,000 scholarship takes about $250,000. So that's a lot of money. But other schools have done it, and I know one, for instance, that raised $1.5 million, or one individual paid $1.5 million to endow the women's basketball coach's salary. That loosens up the purse strings for your operating budgets, your recruiting budgets, any budget you want to talk about, if those kinds of things are happening.
Very good.